Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you this morning? Feel welcome to say g'day and let me know how you're going, because it's Friday today, end of the week, and we have learned so much this week. My name's Linda, I'm a trauma recovery coach, and it's wonderful to be here with you this morning. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's wonderful to be here with you this evening. I enjoy coming and sharing with you each morning because when we have this information, we can take it to our therapist, we can take it to our trauma recovery coach, we can sit and discuss it with our friends and help equip them too. And as we begin to incorporate the information into our life, our day-to-day life, we can begin to see what's really happening for us as an adult. Good morning, beautiful. How are you today? I'm got to catch up with you too. Okay, so today is a really important topic. It's about what happens in the brain during a potentially traumatic event. Now, this is information that comes straight from an infographic by Nicobarm, and they are one of the leaders in information that help us understand what's happening at a neurological level and also how we can go about beginning to move from recovery to remission. Now, this information will help you, but I also want you to be aware that you can go away and journal about it. You can go away and really ponder about how this is happening for you. You can observe what you need to begin to understand in your day-to-day life about how this is impacting you. And I will add the infographic down below at the end so that you can, silent sneeze, so that you can take time and digest the information and bring it into what's happening for you in your day-to-day life, all right? Now, it is important to share this kind of information with your therapist and with your trauma recovery coach if they haven't got it there for you, because the more we share this information, the greater we actually all participate in the healing that needs to happen for multi-generations around the world, all right? And there are many therapists who haven't had the time because this isn't their specialty, but if you share it with them, they will take hold of it. Well, most would take hold of it and go, wow, we need this information. We need to be able to share it with each other. So if you have any questions at the end, please feel welcome to ask. And if I don't know the information, I'm always happy to research it for you, because there's no way any one person can know everything. This is my area of specialty where I work with clients and help them focus what's happening on the neurobiological level and how it affects them individually, physiologically, because I'm personally aware of the great impact it's had on my recovery to remission journey. Okay, so what is happening? What happens right at the very beginning of a potentially traumatic event? So our brain stem, now I pre-prepared a brain for you. Sorry, my warped sense of humour on a Friday. But I want to be able to show you so that you can imagine what's happening. So our brain stem is this first bit. And when I say first bit, it's referred to as the primitive part of the brain, and it's in here. And it's not at a surface level that this happens, okay? It's at a very deep level in the brain. And believe me, I'm still wrapping my head around about the depth of the brain and its incredible capacity to do and process so much, right? But in this situation, we're talking about the brainstem down here, and it's very, very deep in this part. So our eyes, when our eyes look and scan around, all that information goes in through the retina, and it goes straight back to So all the nerve endings, I call them my optical fibres. Sorry. It becomes easier to remember, and when we can relate it into our everyday life. So they come from the front all the way back into this primitive part of the brain. Okay. And what happens is, with the visual information that goes straight back to the brainstem, before any higher levels of the brain are even aware of the threat. So nothing else about us as even perceived that there will be a threat. And you can notice this in yourself if you experience childhood trauma, and especially childhood developmental trauma. You'll notice this in yourself when you walk into a room and you automatically begin scanning the room. So build that awareness into yourself if that's what you're doing. You're looking for a perceived threat, all right? So that's the first part that happens, and it goes all the way back, straight back into the brain. Okay, now if the predator moves closer, the periaqueductal grey initiates a fight or flight response. So the periaqueductal grey is way back here, all right? And it determines, without any conscious thought, if it needs to respond into a fight or flight response. So it's totally out of our hands. It's like scanning the room, bang, off we go. All right? Now, the periaqueductal grey, that's a big word to get your mouth around it in the first thing in the morning, activates the sympathetic nervous system. Heart rate goes up, blood flow to muscles increase, blood pressure increases, and our pupils dilate. So it literally, here in the periaqueductal grey, is where all the fight or flight response goes. And we have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system. So the first to go is the sympathetic nervous system, all right? So it's when the first sign of it for me that I used to be aware of is when I'd be all of a sudden perspiring in public, in air conditioning, and going, oh my goodness, here we go again, and not know or understand why this was happening, okay? Had no clue. And that's quite normal because we haven't had this information, okay? But it's not always possible to fight or escape. So when that happens, that's when we may enter into the freeze response. So now, this gorgeous part of our brain here, the periaqueductal grey, all right, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So both sides of our nervous system are now activated. So in the parasympathetic nervous system, our muscles get tight and freeze. Both our gaze and breath may freeze. This is not a cognitive choice, so it is not something that we automatically choose. It's not something that we're conscious of. It simply happens without thought because of a perceived threat. These decisions are made at the level of the brain stem and the nervous system. Now, as you can see here, it goes up into the periaqueductal grey, actually is connected into both nervous systems, so it goes up into our brain. So it triggers everything that's going to happen in our brain, and it also goes down into our body. That's why I chose this one, because it actually had the nervous system going up and down. So when we build that awareness around what's happening on both sides of our nervous system, we can understand that the parasympathetic nervous system's going one way, the sympathetic nervous system's triggering the other way, and when they're not working together, it's like a seesaw. If they're not going up and down, they're just flat, they're frozen, all right? And it's like being on that seesaw where no one can, when both of you are on the seesaw and it's flat, so you're balanced out, and when you're little kids and your feet can't touch the ground, no one can move, all right? And we're sitting there frozen. So our feet can't touch the ground and we can't go up. We're not going up, so we're not going up and down. There's no balance and there's no movement. There's no equal movement. It's frozen. And that's literally what happens to us. And we build this awareness into our day-to-day life of when we are frozen. And we literally feel that we can't move. I've been sitting in a chair, in my lounge chair, and this is in my own home, and without me even knowing it, something has triggered a potential threat. And this is where it makes no sense, because we're in our own home. What on earth happened? And you are literally sitting there and you feel like you can't move. It's legitimate, all right? It's not you. It's not something you've chosen. We don't know what's happened at that primitive part of the brain, but we do know it's a response to a perceived threat, all right? Now, if the predator doesn't move away, we may shut down completely. So this is taking it to a whole different level. Our heart rate drops. Our respiratory rate drops. Some people stop breathing. Muscles become limp. Metabolism shuts down. Endorphins are released. So we enter a state of what's called no pain. We are no longer aware of our surroundings. So think of when this happens multiple times in childhood, we can develop things like disassociation. Especially look at DID, dissociation identity disorder. And obviously it develops increased anxiety. The anxiety trigger. It initiates the depression trigger, all right, that go off in our brain. So this is just the first part that happens down in this part of the brain. But once we go into this freeze mode, it also triggers other things in the brain as well. So during inescapable trauma, this was a very adaptive way for the brain and the body, all right, so remember it's our body that's responding as well, to respond to the perceived threat of trauma. When I heard this information yesterday, I nearly wanted to, cry, happy tears in one way, but everything began to make sense why my whole system shut down at whatever age I was, in my 40s, because I had a perceived threat of danger in my own home, and I had no idea any of this was happening out of my control, right? So when that happened, doctors threw medications at it, but nobody knew why and nobody knew what was going on. This is what happened in a mega way, because my brain had already been wired like this in childhood due to repeated perceived threats. All right, so our brain gets molded that way, and it's ongoing. And as we continue to get more mature in age, the impact becomes greater. All right, this is what I found. The impact becomes too much. It's just one too many things for the brain to process. Okay, so for me, it had a critical impact in that I lost all my cognitive function altogether. So couldn't walk, couldn't talk, I had no memory, or on and on, had no perception left. There are so many parts of the brain that are affected by this initial response, and when it happens repeatedly, the repeated impact, especially from childhood and onwards, the repeated impact of the stress affects our health. All right, that's the bottom line, and it will affect our health differently for each and every one of us. Okay, I hope that's helped. Please feel welcome to ask any questions as Panda jumps into view this morning. And It's important to take time to process this information. Rewatch the video. Let yourself absorb it and let yourself begin to know that you're okay to start becoming aware of when this happens in your day-to-day life. Because once you're aware, once you know that you're safe to become aware of this happening from both sides of the nervous system, then you'll be okay to begin to feel that you're also safe to get up and move off the lounge. You're safe to get out of bed. And when I became aware of some of this information, I was at gym and all of a sudden I knew the trigger had gone off because I could feel the shortness of breath. You literally become aware that you're not able to breathe in a normal way. All right, it becomes very short, especially if you're exercising and I need more breath. Then I knew that at that point in time my brain had been triggered. So I'd sit there and I would stay as long as I could and feeling comfortable as I repeated, I am safe. Because we as the adults can begin to reclaim our brain function. Neuroplasticity ensures that we can develop new neural pathways and we can reclaim our life. Because I'm sitting here today and it's possible. Where I once couldn't talk, I can, and so on. And you can too. I want you to have hope that you can do this too. Have the most gorgeous Friday. Remember to share the information far and wide because it's so new that many do not know about it. And when we know this information, we can take away the factor that we are not to blame for what's out of our control, what's happening. But after we understand that, we can also begin to choose how we want to take back our life. Have a gorgeous weekend. Thanks for joining in today. I love and appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you again Monday with some more information. Bye for now.